So welcome everybody to another What's Current podcast from NAPIT, and today I'm joined by the legends of the industry from Electrical Safety First. I've got Dave, Pal and Rich Harvey with me. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Steve. You all right?
Yeah. Did you both have a good Christmas?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, not too much indulgence, I hope.
Yeah, one or two shandies, mate. You know how it goes. One or two shandies. Yeah, and one or two cakes.
One or two cakes, yeah. So it's great to have you with us, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you both. So just as a little starter for 10 then, so our listeners can just get to know who you guys are. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and your electrical journey. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, which our listeners won't know, but we've moved in similar circles, shall we say. So just tell us about your electrical journey. Would you want to go first on that one, Rich?
Yeah. Well, gosh, I started my electrical journey way back in 1990. So I wanted to be a mechanic originally, but my dad said, you ain't doing that because you'll have dirty fingernails for the rest of your life. My dad is a gas fitter, plumber, but, you know, being old school, he can kind of do anything. So he said, you're going to be an electrician, you are. So off he went, dropped me off at my local college, which was Garrett's Green way back in the day in Birmingham, since long gone now, and managed to get an apprenticeship with a local contractor. So I started that in 1990, did a 4-year apprenticeship, did a block release pattern at college. So it was a month on and a month off. That's how we did it back then. Did my AM2 in 1995. Past that, I then stayed on day release at college to do my C certificate. So I qualified in 95, but then I went back in 1997, did my 2391, and then just kept up with regulations and things over the years. I worked for a number of little local contractors for a while, and then decided to set my own approved contractor up with the NIC, worked for myself for 10 years, 11 years or so. And then around 2014, 15, it became quite difficult chasing money all the time, and it just became difficult. And an opportunity came up to be a lecturer. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. I've had apprentices over time myself, always enjoyed passing knowledge on and stuff. And I got an interview at a college in Wellingborough, Tresham College. And I thought, that sounds pretty good. So I got all the information through. I had to go and do a PowerPoint and a little micro teach on putting a light in a loft.
Yeah.
And I kind of panicked, and I remember ringing up the HR department and said, "Look, I'm an electrician. I'm not a teacher. You know, I don't know what PowerPoint is. I've never heard of it." And she said, "No, just you'll be okay. Google it and just come anyway, because you know you got nothing to lose, whatever." So anyway, I did exactly what she said, and a good friend of mine was a carpentry lecturer at a college in Birmingham, so he gave me a few ideas. So I kind of wrote down a few ideas on the back of a crab tree socket box. I remember writing a few bits down. Took a few props with me because I thought, well, how are you going to teach somebody how to wire a light in a loft in 15 minutes? You're never going to be able to do it. So I thought, well, you could talk about the health and safety implications about going into the loft for more than 15 minutes. Anyway, put a few bits together. I took some paper overalls and a few props and a safe isolation kit and a few things. Got to the college to do the interview, and the level 3 learners were in at the time, which I didn't know. So I had to deliver it to like 20 of these kids. The lecturer from the workshop that was delivering the teaching to them, the workshop technician, and then the vice principal and head of quality and all that. Anyway, got the job. And it was on a part-time basis at the time. So I was doing 2 days at college, and then I'll still working for myself for 3 days. But come like the new year, the intake of learners was getting so big that they offered me a full-time job. But of course, the money's never great. So you might be fully qualified electrically, but you ain't got no quals in teaching. So
yeah,
they put me through my petals as it was then, which is like a level 3 introduction into teaching. And then they put me through my level 5 cert, which is my degree in teaching. So I spent 2 years doing that. Did assessing qualifications and quality assurance and stuff. But because of how far away it was from my house, it was like 140 miles a day, 90 quid a week in fuel. Still had the van then as well. I kind of come away from that and got a job at a local training provider in Birmingham, where I met Dave, and I was tutor manager there. So I kind of managed 7 or 8 lecturers at the time, but I was teaching mostly myself anyway. And I spent 5 years or so there, and this job opportunity came up. It was quite a long process, about 4 or 5 different parts to the interview and all the rest of it. And in the interim, I took a job at a local college for a few months because my passion is with teaching and training. And then this job came up to be a electrical installation safety engineer with electrical safety first. And I've always used their best practice guides within my own teaching over the years and referred to their guidance, knowing that it's put together by a number of contributing organisations, one being NAPIT, as you know, and NIC and HSC, etc. And I thought, well, that opportunity is just too good not to go for. And I started in April of last year. Great to be working again with Dave and with Martin. And it's been really eye-opening. And it's been nice to build on those relationships I've built up with people like yourself and other, gods of the electrical industry. And it's nice to be able to get involved and try and improve safety, whether it be EICRs or providing guidance where some of the regs is more difficult to understand. So really, really enjoying it, and yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. So that's my little
fantastic. Wow, and it's interesting, Richard. That is brilliant, because that's almost a carbon copy of my situation. I can see a lot of myself in those stories you tell. I remember that first micro teach, and you think 15 minutes. I remember at mine was at a college in the Midlands, and literally it was like after 15 minutes I was still going, and we're like time, and like literally called time, and you think, oh no, I've completely messed this up. I'm never going to get the job, and it's nerve-wracking to come off the tools and enter into those roles, but. You stick. It just proves, though, Richard, if you stick with it, you get the rewards, don't you?
That's right, and it's all the other stuff that goes with it, like the safeguarding and equality and the other things you don't necessarily have knowledge of that you have to have knowledge of, professional standards and everything else, and dealing with 15, 20, 25 learners, and they're not all the same. They're all at different abilities. Some are challenging, some aren't. It's a lot. It's not everyone can teach. It's very difficult, but what you do it for is to see those learners go on that journey, whether it be full-time learners or apprentices or whatever. Ultimately, I'm proud to get my gold card out and show them that and say, look, this wasn't achieved overnight. This has been achieved over a number of years, and you're still learning every single day, especially at the moment, so.
Yeah, I think with us all coming from an education background, I think to honestly believe this, and it sounds a little bit like a cliche, it's a noble profession, because like you say, not everyone's up for it, but you are passing on that knowledge to the next generation, as frustrating as that is. So Dave, is yours a similar journey? What's your story getting into the trade and where you are now?
Yeah, it's similar to Richard. Started at the Midlands Electricity Board, commonly known as the MEB in Warsaw.
That's old school.
Yeah, in 1999. So that was when the apprenticeship was. I've worked all over the UK in all different areas: industrial, commercial, renewables, hazardous area, domestic. Been involved with design work for National Grid. Worked in the office, been on the tools, inspection and testing, done all the quals I could possibly do. Had my own CPS scheme, registered business, had an apprentice. Went back doing renewables in 2012 to 2017. And then a job opportunity come up for lecturing at the training provider where I work with Rich. Used to love helping people out on site and developing their learning. So I thought, why not take that jump into doing it as a profession? Used to love doing what I did, and then I moved from the training provider to a local college, South Staffordshire College, and I ran Cannock Campus, the electrical department there for 5 years, teaching apprentices, adult learners, full-time learners. Got a load from it, a massive learning curve, as we were saying, but the most challenging and rewarding job I think I've ever done. and then opportunity come up, electrical safety first. And again, same with Richard, always referred to the guides and whatnot. And yeah, proud to be here and proud to be part of what we do at Electrical Safety First. So all good.
I love the fact that you two sort of work together in a former life, and then it's come full circle, and you're back to your multiple ways of the electrical industry.
It's madness, because a year ago today, a year ago in January, I remember I was in B&Q because we just recently bought a new house and we just moved in, and I was just having a phone call, just catching up with Dave on the phone. Well, I remember because I was in B&Q.
We've always kept in touch.
Yeah, always, because you always share resources, don't you? Over, as you do. And I remember walking around, putting my paint in the trolley and that, and Dave was like, "Oh yeah, I've left the college and I've got a job with Electrical Safety First." And I was like, brilliant, fair play and all the rest of it. And at the time, we would have both gone for the same interview, if that makes sense. Wow.
But
it transpired that when I had my interview, well, I was waiting to have mine. I was waiting downstairs in like a holding room.
In this actual room?
In this actual room we're in now. Dave was
fantastic.
upstairs. Yeah. Dave was upstairs having his interview because he's run over slightly. So I was down here, but at the same time, Dave was upstairs.
But we didn't know.
We didn't know.
There was no.
So
that's crazy.
Small world, crazy really.
Yeah.
But it's a pleasure to be working with Dave again, because we've always kind of aimed for more. Whatever we've done,
we're on the same page, aren't we? With things like that,
for sure.
Raising standards and safety.
Yeah.
That comes across at both what you've said there, is that the background of being on the tools and going into education, you're always striving to see what's next, and that's really encouraging to see that people coming through, isn't it? Because I think from my own journey, I always thought I'll be a spark for the rest of my life, and that's what I'll do till I'm carried out in a box. But you don't realise what's around the corner until you take a punt on it, do you?
Exactly.
You just don't know, and it's mad. Certain things like fall into place. And when I got that lecturing job, obviously I wasn't a lecturer, I was mentored, and my mentor, and I remember him bowling in on the first day, was Gary Hayes.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, Gary, another legend.
So my introduction into teaching was working with Gary Hayes. And
That's
then,
fantastic.
when I left that college after 3.5 years or so, Gary started to record some videos via GSH. And he was talking about eFix then. There was a concept, and I kind of left that and come away from it. And then look where he's at now.
But Gary's done wonders for the industry. That's the kind of the content he puts out. He's absolutely amazing.
Small world,
It is a small world. It is in our world. So now you're both at Electrical Safety First. So for those that don't know, tell our listeners a bit about what is the concept of Electrical Safety First. What do they do? What's the messages they watch? Obviously, it's safety in the title, so I presume safety is the first thing that's the main element.
Yeah. So Electrical Safety First, they're a non-profit charity. And they were formed actually in 1956, but originally they were called the Electrical Safety Council.
Yeah.
And you might see them certainly with some of the old publications produced by the NIC and other organisations like that, where they were contributors towards, or even produced a lot of their guidance and books and things like that. But of course, we exist obviously to prevent deaths, really, injuries and damage that can be caused by electricity. We're recognised as the expert voice in electrical safety. We secure regular comments and coverage in national, regional and specialist media. We've done a lot of stuff, certainly last year, the products safety side of it, with battery fires and things like that. We've also got a legislation team which we lobby consistently with the government for change. For example, we brought about the requirement for 5-year EICRs, the PRS scheme. We were actively pushing that.
Yeah. And then obviously, going on from what Richard just said, we look at product safety as well. We campaign for UK government to regulate online marketplaces, so you've got the same level of protection if you were buying from a store. Richard mentioned the battery breakdown report that you may have seen, with exploding batteries, and warning people of the dangers of charging e-bikes and e-scooters in the home, which obviously really dangerous. It's if the faulty equipment's like a firework going off in your house. So we've got a legislation team, our product team, and we've got our installation team, which is where me and Richard come in. It's just as vitally as important. We are electrical installation safety engineers. That's our sort of job titles. Our roles are to provide information and guidance to general public, contractors, and we can do this through our inquiries, our best practice guides, which are totally free. So everything we do is free. So all the battery breakdown report, best practice guides, anything we do, we're a non-profit charity, it's all free publications. And we've got various sort of social media campaigns as well. We had Fire Safety Week just before Christmas. We've had Don't Be Electric. We've had the battery breakdown. And, keep your eyes peeled for some more bits and bobs from myself and Rich as well, some video content.
Oh, we're looking forward to that. And I said Morecambe and Wise earlier. I should have gone for Ant and Deck, shouldn't I? I need to move it into at least modern times. And just talking about that, Dave, the e-scooter thing I saw, some of the stuff that you've got out there on social media is fantastic. That awareness, because like you said, if you can buy some of this spurious stuff off the internet with, no CE mark, it's not got a British or a European norm associated with it. That's really dangerous, because if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, isn't it? And it's going to cause grief in the long run.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it's that cheap, you think, well, how can they make it for that money? Then there's obviously a reason, isn't there? There's shortcuts to do with safety. Unfortunately, you can't put price on life, can you? So it's not worth the risk with these certain things and shortcuts and products, and there's a lot of things to consider.
Do you know the one that's worrying me at the minute? Have you seen these body warmers now that have got all the wires in them where you can heat up a body warmer?
Right next to your vital organs. Yeah.
I know. I'm just thinking, oh no, this doesn't seem like a good. I remember electric blankets when I was a kid, and that those were a cause of a few incidents back in the day. But anyway, we are in a world of electrification, so we'll go with it as long as it's safe. Keeps us all in a job, I suppose. But yeah, thanks for that, guys. And as you both mentioned, obviously, collectively, even the three of us, we've been in the industry for a fair while. Seems a while back since we all did our apprenticeships. You've been involved in an installation, been on the training. What do you see, sort of, if we look back, years gone by and up to modern times, what do you see as the main pitfalls in safety? Is there some really ones that you see sticking out when you're sort of doing your research into this kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of it with complacency, I think, and a sort of monkey see, monkey do approach, and that's how we've always done it, so that must be right. And someone's started somewhere and they've been shown something, and then they've shown someone else how to do something, and along the way, the vital aspects of safety have gone missing,
that's really
the high standards that were there initially have slowly filtered down, and it's so it comes down to competence, it comes down to education. We've got, as you mentioned, the electrification of the world, really, and it's people. We need people to upskill and develop the knowledge and keep up to date with the technology, and that's the beauty of the industry that we work in. It's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, but it does keep it interesting, because you've got to keep up to date with technology changing, the products, the regulations. But the other issues that we find is people having relevant experience in their areas of specialism. So for instance, if someone was conducting an EICR and say that they've only done domestic environments, it's pointless putting them in an industrial environment or a commercial environment, because, as we know, it's totally different. So I think there's a lot of scope for upskilling and passing on some knowledge, and even spending some time with people who are competent in that area, just to sort of bring people up to speed, rather than just dropping people in the deep end. One positive thing though that we've seen recently is the change to the entry requirements for qualifications.
Yes. So, this electrician plus kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and a few years ago, you could, if you went in to pay them, I could be a gardener and I want to go under my 18th edition, and I could just pay the money or whatever course it was. Whereas now, certain courses you've got to have certain qualifications already to be able to, be on that course. So there's some positive steps. We're going in the right direction with things, definitely.
And more needs to be done, because the qualifications themselves need to be relevant still. And I know that certainly with the AL, our good friend Kevin Sparrow is always updating the quals to reflect the changes in legislation or requirements of the regs and things like that. But as Dave quite rightly says, the quals also need to have that minimum entry criteria, because, for instance, I've delivered 2391 and Dave has, and you probably have yourself. But certainly when I did it way back in 1997, you wasn't allowed to do it unless you could evidence at least 2 years experience carrying out inspection and testing, and you had to have a declaration signed by your employer to say you were suitable for it. You couldn't just go and pay your money and do it. And this is the problem. I know that certainly with City and Girls, the EV courses, the new ones, there is a requirement that you are NVQ3, AM2 and gold card, but that isn't a requirement for 2391. And it should be, because a lot of people think, well, I've in fair play, I've spent £1,000 on a course and I've got my certificate and I've spent 2 hours on a simulated, installation, and I know how to inspect and test. But actually, you don't.
Yeah.
And a lot of our inquiries are through ordinary people, the recipient of a report that's not clear exactly what the report covers, what they need to do, what a C2 means. Is it actually a C2 to start with, etc.? And a lot of that is because the inspector that's carried out that inspection and test isn't sufficiently experienced to be doing it. They're not familiar with older types of switchgear. It's not their fault. They just haven't had that experience. They haven't been mentored. They haven't had that. They've gone and done a course and they're out there doing it now.
Yeah.
And this is
it's like you say, if you don't know, you don't know, don't you? But
No.
you could always, like Dave, you said, I think you've hit the nail on the head, both of you, really. It is about that competence, and it's human error, really, that we're seeing the most safety issues in. Yeah. It's not necessarily always the fault of the bit of kit, it's how it's installed. And testing is a massive part of that. I remember, you're quite right, Richard, I remember the 2391 when I did mine many years ago, back in at Sutton Coldfield, at an Erdington campus, and I went there, and literally you took the exam and you went on the rig. You didn't have any teaching, but now we seem to sit everyone in a classroom for 5 days to get them through a qual.
I think that's the point. The other end. You're getting them through something.
Yeah,
that's the point. It's easy to say something should be better and could be better, but of course we need to find collectively solutions to that.
I think I'm just going to say, I think from my experience, that I've seen and worked with a lot of people that they know the way around the test meter. They can perform the range of tests practically, but they can't take on board what the results mean. They can't verify the results. They don't know whether it's good, it's bad. And I think that tends to be the issue with some of the people that attend the courses. They just assume that they can have no experience, they can scrape through the course and then just start doing it, but you can't. I mean, I had at least a couple of years with a inspector test engineer assisting him, going through the tests, going through comparing results, even typing up the results on the certification software and things like that before I went in and did my 2391. And I think that's how it should be, really. You can't just sort of do the qual and then just chucked into the deep end.
The right way around, Dave, really, isn't it? You're saying, get the experience, learn under someone, and then when you're ready, then put you in. I think we have got it mixed up. You're quite right, but I think your point on it is moving in the right direction because people are passionate about seeing the industry safer. Moving on then, so obviously, you guys at Electrical Safety First, us guys at NAPIT, other organisations, if we're going to get that message out there that we want that competence and, the education to be better and safety in general, like your organisation, for instance, said it's for the public, it's for installers, designers, it covers all people, really. How do we get that out there? What's the medium we get that out for? Is it just let's pump it in social media? Or things like this podcast. Sometimes it's hard, isn't it, to get that message out there?
It is, but you've got to look at what the trends are currently, because how we used to do things back in the day isn't how things are done these days, and you need to have a good comms team and that. And luckily, we've got a really good comms team here that understand, what's trending and how we get it across. And it's a bit of a learning curve for me and Dave, because we've had some media training, but we are keen on producing some videos. We've done one recently on GS38, so just explaining, what you should consider within GS38. Now you apply that to your test equipment, probes, leads, and things like that. We've also partially recorded some safe isolation videos that we haven't finished editing. We've got to do that. But some of the stuff, and I can't keep up with, what's the best thing or the best platform to do it. But at the moment, TikTok and Instagram, they're huge, but it's no good putting a 20-minute video on TikTok, because that's not what it is. So with the comms team and stuff, then it might be some little short snippet bits to get people interested, which will then lead them back to the website, or, maybe have a QR code linked to it, which will then, give them a link to the best practice guides, or maybe the RAG, or other useful resources. And the more that we can do collectively, by visiting colleges and events, we're glad to be back at LX at the end of February, which would be great. You're going to be there yourselves. And
see you there, boys.
Between us and yourselves, and us and NIC and whoever. We visited a couple of colleges last year. We teamed up with eFix and Gaz, and we did some general awareness and a bit of a talk on safe isolation and stuff like that, and offering support there. I think the more we can do, and everything that we do is free.
That's brilliant.
And show them where and how easily accessible it is, and remind everyone that the guides are put together by a number of organisations, and everything that goes into the guides is a long process. And I'm pretty sure Dave will talk to us about the process of putting a guide together.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Rick said, there's no sort of finite answer for this. We've got that many ways of getting information to people available to us, whether it's social media, whether it's best practice guides, whether it's something, in the news and on the radio, because we do a lot on that as well. The last few months, a lot of it's centered around product safety, but obviously we've had stuff previously on EICRs and the PRS as well. I mean, we mentioned best practice guides. There's an absolute goldmine of information on our website as well, which is developed by our RAG group, which is our Wiring Regulation Advisory Group, of which NAPIT are part of. And that's something that people aren't aware of at the moment. We're sort of developing the website as we speak. So when the new one's there, it's hopefully going to be signposted a bit more. But we've got a wealth of information there, freely available to anyone, that's been developed by not just us, but multiple organisations within industry, the big hitters. So we've got all this information. We've got the guides, we've got videos, we've got social media platforms, we've got events that we're going to. Obviously, we're working with everyone, all the other organisations in industry, to try and work together and come to providing relevant technical and safety information. So
that's a really comprehensive answer from both of you, and I know I've benefited massively from being part of the RAG, because actually getting those big hitters in the room, and probably our listeners don't realise a lot of what goes into formulating those best practice guides and getting a consensus out there. It's massive. I mean, I know for you, Dave, as chair, it's like herding cats, isn't it? With all this. Well, I think there should be a full stop there.
I mean, it's fun. It's fantastic in what we do, and I do enjoy those meetings. But I mean, sometimes things do have to take time. We can't just put stuff out there, willy-nilly. But it does take time.
It is a process, isn't it? And it should be a carefully thought out process. I mean, I joke about that, but actually to get something right, because if you're putting that information out there, whatever medium, it's got to be correct information. And as you guys know, there's plenty of stuff on the internet that you can access on YouTube, whatever it may be, where people are putting together videos, and you just think, wow, if you really just said that, and you've got it may have a subscription of 11,000 views, but actually to me, that's dangerous rhetoric when it's misinformation, as is all based on regulations and standards, isn't it? What we do?
And I think the other thing is any information that we put out from an organisation has been agreed with all the other organisations. So it isn't just my view, Richard's view, electrical safety first view. It's everyone combined. So it adds real weight to everything that we do.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with the safe isolation procedure that we've got in best practice guide too. Everyone on that second page has agreed to that procedure. Everyone.
Yeah.
So it's not just one that I prefer or Rich prefers. Everyone has agreed to that set procedure. So that's what everyone should be doing.
Yeah. But to get to that point, that procedure would have been detailed down, and Dave would have sent that out then to all of those organisations for comment. That might have come back then, because somebody might have said, well, as you know, something simple as that needs a full stop there or whatever. Or we could have had a conversation that could have gone forwards and backwards for a number of weeks, where let's say that we're going to say identify point of isolation first and then ask permission second. We could have had a discussion about which way around there should have been. That might have took, you know, a number of meetings to discuss that. So once they're together and they're released and available, that could have took, you know, a number of weeks to put it together. So it is best practice because everyone's agreed to it. Yeah. And that's the important thing. It's not just what I think or what Dave thinks. We've all collectively come together. So nobody can really argue, and that's important. Yeah. And we're the only organisation that have a platform for organisations to be able to do that.
Well,
you know,
together.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's so important. The same as RAG. And RAG is for where you might have come across something on site or within your design that's not clear within the regs, because the regs is a complicated book,
of course,
that doesn't, as you know, that doesn't always tell us in black and white. And then sometimes we need, you know, a sensible approach or guidance to something that's not quite clear. And that's why I find RAG really interesting. And I love being part of that, because as you quite rightly say, to me, it's all the, you know, the big clever heads within the industry, from the IET to NAPIT to Select to HSC, to everyone that come together to formulate sensible approaches and answers to some of the questions that Sparks don't know the answers to. Even I don't. So it's really interesting, and it's good. You know, we've also got our working groups that we run, again, within EICRs, within, you know, general safety issues. We've always got these other little groups that, again, yourselves and other organisations are part of. So we're the only organisation really that facilitate. And our main aim is to make sure or ensure everything's as safe as it can be.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you entirely, Richard. It's quite refreshing that people probably don't know that organisations like ourselves work together, don't they? We do collectively come together. It's not about opinion. It's about getting the right message out there. Oh, that's brilliant. I suppose just to wrap it up, really, I suppose before we sort of get more information and learn where we can get more information about yourselves is, we know the world of sparking is changing. We've talked about our install days. You know, I spent a lot of time maybe in big stuff in my apprenticeship, which was commercial and industrial, hospitals, schools, all ladder rack and big armoured. And then I did it the other way. I went into sort of domestic to the second half of my career on the tools. You know, it was basic sockets and lighting, guys. It was like, you know, it was 2 at 1 stage. You know, it was ring mains. It was ring final circuits. Sorry, ring final circuits. I should have said immersion heaters. Yeah, it was Y plans, S plans.
That's what it was.
And that was as complex as it got. And now we're in the world of EV charging, smart homes, battery storage, PV's meta comeback. I mean, for us guys, as being in those positions you just talked about, how important is it for us to educate ourselves? We might not be installing it anymore, but we need to keep up to date.
That's true. And recently, myself and Richard, we attended a PV course. It's something that I worked on years ago, but never went through and did the qualification for it. So because we're in the process of developing a guide or update one of our existing guides around PV, we chose ourselves to go and do the qual to keep up to date with standards. We've got to ourselves and the people in the industry, we've got to embrace change, and we've got to be prepared to, you know, go back and do some form of training, develop your CPD. I mean, although we do what we do, we attend a lot of seminars, and do like CPD. You know, it might be on a particular protective device, and we'll get the CPD certificate at the end. We have to keep that. I'd encourage everyone to do that as well.
It's crucial, and because of where we sit within industry, you know, we have the opportunity to go out with NRC, IC area engineers as well. So it's crucial that we keep up to date with what's going on in industry. That's so important.
Yeah.
And we've been out a couple of times to see our good friend Mark Allison from Apprentice 1-to-1 on a couple of his sites.
Oh yeah, well. Mark's one of our members.
And we've had opportunity as well to go and visit some of Dave's previous employers, because they do big solar farms and things like that. Moving forward, it'd be nice to have a conversation with yourself, and if possible, go out on a couple of NAPIT assessments and things, just to get a feel of the assessment process. You know, how the contractor feels, where their knowledge is at, and that then gives us an idea of what direction that we may need to go in our guidance. What else can we produce that might help, or collectively work together again, maybe to do another podcast or a webinar with yourselves. You know, we do webinars with the NIC. We've got a wire webinar coming up very shortly with them, but we're keen to do that with everyone if it helps. That's what we're here for at the end of the day.
We're here to collaborate, not to isolate anyone, if that makes sense.
You did an electrical pun then, Dave, without even realising.
For the people in industry, you know, with regards to CPD, it's never been easier. You can do stuff in your own time. You know, you can do it after work. You can print your CPD certificates off. You know, and it tends to be free, doesn't it? So I don't think there's any excuse really.
There was something like that when we were back at college in our apprenticeship. I've still got my old CITB blue working skills books and all that, you know. But now with EFIX and yourselves, and obviously the NIC and us producing webinars and podcasts and things like that, there's just no excuses there. If you don't want to watch something, you can sit on the train and listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
you know, and gain knowledge and information. And with the Alex and things, it's good.
Yeah, you're quite right. And I think a good one you mentioned there, Richard, for me was, what about the installers? Because we can sit in our ivory towers and get as many certificates as we can collect possibly. But like going with installers like Mark, you know, out with your inspection team, that is gold dust, isn't it, for us to see what's actually happening.
Just to keep in touch with industry. We don't have become detached from reality. We want to know what are the issues people are having on site. What is there a guide that we haven't got that we could put into development to help people understand things a bit more, break the regulations down in a bit more easy to digest sort of language, you know. So
and that's especially true within part 7, isn't it? Because you've got to consider parts 1 to 6, of course, the general requirements, but then you've also got to consider the extra bits that may be in part 7, and that's you know, there's a lot of things I learned from that solar PV course that you can't apply your design or start your design until you've considered what's in 712, because some of that is fundamental. Before you, and the relationship between 712 and 551, because ultimately it's a generator. But you know, there's so many considerations you've got to consider. And there's not a single guide out there that it's got everything in, you know. So and some people
there's not. You're right.
They don't learn from reading a book, you know. They learn from, there's other forms of learning as well.
Yeah, like you said,
don't they?
Podcasts. We all know there's different medium to get that message across. So finally then, guys, just as we're looking at closing here, what if I want to know more information about yourselves? Is it just simply get on the website, see what you do, have a mooch around the website to see about the RAG and these questions and stuff?
Yeah, so go on the website, so electricalsafetyfirst.org.uk. Professional resources is if you want to know more information on the installation side, which what we look after, best practice guide, RAG, things like that. Obviously, there's a whole host of stuff on the product safety. The social media platforms, we're on X, which is obviously formerly Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We've got our own sort of area for our installation videos where you'll find our video content at GS38. Keep an eye out for some future videos from myself and Richard.
I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to see the new Ant and Dec of the electrical industry. And Darren, just on that one, all the best, Patrick Guy, all the resources, like you said, free for everybody to download.
That's the beauty of it. Because we are what we are, and a non-profit charity, everything that we put out, it's all free. There's no hidden costs. There's no hidden trials. There's no put your details in and we'll charge you in 3 months' time. It's all totally free.
That is fantastic.
If you get the opportunity to pop down and see us at LX at Alexandra Palace, we will have some printed copies of some of the more popular best practice guides. So 2, safe isolation, 4, coding classification, and 10, which is our brand new guide on minimum specifications for EICR.
Yeah, pop down and see us.
Me and Dave will be there, and we'll be presenting we've got a technical seminar.
Few slots on the seminars.
Few slots, but we'll be on the stand. So by all means,
I'll look forward to it. I'll be down there, so we'll have to meet up for a bit of dinner and maybe a few liveners. How's that sound?
Maybe we'll have a shandy. Maybe. So look forward to it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed today because obviously, just to chat sparky and stuff like this and influence the industry is just fantastic for us all. So really, thanks a lot for agreeing to do today's podcast.
Pleasure, mate.
No problems. All right, thanks for listening then, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that. A lot of information there, but get on the website, have a look. Electrical Safety First. These are good guys that are passionate about the industry, collaborating with organisations like ourselves. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Cheers, guys. Bye.